Just be careful when you say, I would never, because you're probably going to be tested in exactly that area. And it's easy to say, I would never, when you've never had the opportunity to. It's easy to say, from earlier, if I had $1 million, I'd be a better person. I wonder if we would be, bless you, if you had $1 million. Or I wonder if the road to earning $1 million is the struggle and the hardship. Bless you. I wonder if earning $1 million, the road to that, is the thing that makes you a better person. I wonder if the work that you do on yourself, when you're by yourself, is the thing that makes you a better partner when you do have one. If you're always going from partner to partner, you never have a chance to improve, become better. Unless you're fortunate enough to come across that person in your life who makes you a better person, who makes you want to be a better person. I'm not saying they force you to, I'm saying you sit there and go, wow, I need to step this up, be a better person. Maybe they're a good model for you, or maybe because you just don't want to lose them.
Are not proud of or do not like, they keep doing it, and it's expecting you, and you keep on blaming them.
Yeah. And there are two kinds of responses to that. You've got the person who, when you communicate to them that you don't like something, they stop, oh, sorry, I didn't know it bothered you so much, and they stop. And then you've got the other person who, when they find out it bothers you, they keep doing it more because they find out it pisses you off. And it's worth kind of figuring out what it is that motivates that second person. Like, why is it that it makes you so happy to piss other people off? It's like, it just does. Yeah, but why does it make you happy though? I don't know, I just don't know why it bothers them so much. So why do you keep doing it though? In other words, there's something in you that you know it bothers people and yet you keep doing it. It's just fun, great, but why? What is it that's so attractive to you about upsetting people's days? Like I've talked before about trolls. Going online and trolling people. Why? Why is it so much fun? No, it's just fun to piss people off. Yeah, but why though? Like, why is it brighten your day to make other people's days worse? And I don't just mean like you go online and you present opinions. I'm saying you go online and you intentionally do it purposefully to upset people. There's a difference there. And so you said that you saw it differently, but he's saying both of these two things. That loneliness doesn't just come from not having people around. He says it comes from being unable to communicate. So that's the first thing. Loneliness comes from not being able to communicate. And as we said at the beginning, there are a couple of problems with communication. First off, a lot of times we just don't know how to do it. I mean, if you're talking about, like for example, if I were to ask you to describe this marker, can you do it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, how would you describe it?
Blue.
Blue.
Writing utensil.
Yeah, blue. You could describe it as cylindrical because it's a cylinder. Yeah, there's a lot of ways you could describe it. Now, if I were to ask you to describe love, how would you describe it?
4 stages.
What's that?
4 stages.
I can't hear.
4 stages.
4 stages? Ideally, yeah, ideally. But even then, when we're describing it, we're going to be describing it through analogy or through description. We're not describing the thing itself. We're going to have to do it through analogy. Or trying to, it's kind of like when you do this, or we're going to have to describe it through example. It's when you do that. And so the point is that when something is physical, it's easy to describe. You can physically see it. You can, or you can hear it or whatever. When something is abstract, like love or anger or sadness or hurt, and especially when we use words like that, like how do you feel today? Sad. Why are you sad today? Nah, nothing. Okay, why are you sad today? Well, I went to Starbucks this morning and I asked for extra hot, and they didn't give it to me extra hot. Very sad. Anybody here ever been to Israel before? And they plan on going anytime soon? A bunch of people visited Israel this past weekend, didn't they? By surprise. If you heard about it, then you heard about it. Over 1,000 people dead. The course of just like 2 days, 3 days. Do you think the people of Israel today are sad?
Yeah.
Are they sad in the same way that I'm sad because my coffee wasn't extra hot? Probably not. And that's the problem with using words like that, is it covers such a wide spectrum. I'm sad because my whole family was murdered in our beds, and because my coffee wasn't extra hot this morning, and in everything in between. Being able to describe our emotions is difficult because it's not concrete. It isn't like trying to describe a marker. It's abstract. It's trying to explain non-physical things, and it's trying to convey non-physical things to a person using analogies that we hope that they're going to be able to understand. So this is why why do we have so many different words for sad? We don't have lots of different words for sad. We have lots of different words that explain like the gradations of sadness. It's like you don't just say, oh, I'm mad. Oh, you could be angry, you could be furious, you could be just upset, you could be unsettled. They aren't like we think of them like, oh, they all mean the same thing. No, they don't. They all mean very different things. This is why even if we use a thesaurus to try to come up with synonyms for things that we're saying, we have to be careful that it actually is saying the thing that we want to say. How do you feel today? Oh, sad. Why? It was the terrorists and the paragliders and the slaughtering a few hundred people at the rave. Oh, and my coffee wasn't hot. This is why we should master language, because if we can't master language, then we can't explain what it is that we're feeling. We can't explain what it is that we're going through. And if you can't do that, then you can't communicate it to another person. If you can't communicate it to another person, that means you can never really be totally understood. And that's one of the things that as humans, we really, really want. We want to be understood. I mean, that's the thing that makes us oftentimes feel so alienated. People don't understand what I'm going through. People don't understand what I'm feeling. How can we? You haven't explained it. It's not worth it. No, it is worth it. You're a human being. You're important. You matter. And one of the ways that you make yourself matter is you make yourself materialize, meaning that you actually explain who you are, what you're going through, what you're feeling, what you're thinking about things. And this is one of the reasons that we admire certain people so much, because they're able to speak in such a way that they can reach lots and lots and lots of people. I mean, Martin Luther King Jr. never picked up a gun, and yet somehow just with words, the guy's remembered throughout history. Even when we think about some of the great military commanders, like Alexander the Great, if we were to talk about him, a lot of times we wouldn't just study his military victories, we'd look at the speeches he gave his troops, the speeches that he used to motivate people to do great things. And so communication is, I mean, my goodness, that's the thing that separates us from the animals largely, that we're able to communicate. And not just communicate like, eagle over there, but we're able to actually communicate abstract things. How it is that we're feeling, what we're thinking, what we're going through. And then to be able to use that to connect to other people who have gone through things and thought similar things. Or even better yet, to communicate the things that we're thinking to a person who thinks completely the opposite of us. And normally, when we're in a state of nature, you want one thing, I want that same thing. How do we solve that? Well, the only way to solve it is to fight. But if we're able to talk, we're able to understand each other, well, now we can come to agreements, we can work things out in such a way that maybe we both get what we want, but we also both live. And that's what separates us largely. It's not just poetry and Starbucks. It's more than just that. And so one of the things he's talking about is that when we're unable to communicate the things, first off, notice he's saying the things that seem important to us. Because the things that are important to us aren't necessarily the things that seem important to us. Like if I were to ask you today, what is it that's important to you? And you were to give me a whole list. And then if I were to see you again in 5 years, and I would say, hey, run into you over at Starbucks getting an extra hot coffee. And I were to ask you, hey, what's important to you today? And you were to give me a list. And then we were to compare your list in 5 years to your list today, I bet they'd probably be very different. And then in 10 years, if I saw you, we could compare that list from today to 5 years from now to 10 years from now. And the things that seem important to us today are not going to be the things that are important to us in 10 years. And then hell, 60 years from now, God willing, or cursing us, whatever the case may be, I run into you on your deathbed, and I were to ask you, so, having looked back upon your whole life now, what are the things that were important? And you were to give me a list. And I wonder what that list would look like if we compared it to your list today. The sooner that we can get that 80-year-old person list into our minds, probably the more effectively we're going to live, because we're going to be pretty centrally focused on the things that really are important. But that would take having to figure out what those things are and to figure out the whys of it. And it's not to say that the things that seem important to us are not important. Of course they are. If they're important to you, they're important. But I wonder if they'd be as important to 80-year-old you as they are to 18-year-old you. And maybe start to figure out what those things are that would be important to 80-year-old us, so that we can begin to pursue those things in the long run. So, being able to communicate the things that seem important to us, or from holding certain views which others seem inadmissible. So, it's not just not being able to communicate those things. And by the way, the communication thing is also very hard, because you have to have the right words to accurately describe what it is that you're thinking and feeling. But the second part of that equation is the audience. The person that you're speaking to has to be able to receive it, has to be able to accept it. Have you ever tried talking to a person and maybe telling someone how you feel, and then all they can say back is, "That's crazy." And you're like, "All right, good talk." And that person is just not able to receive it. You'll find that a lot of times in life, you want to communicate something and a person is just not ready to receive it. Sometimes in life, you're going to find that you want to give love to a person, and that's just a person who is just not ready to receive it. I was talking to one of my former students this past weekend. She had a breakup like a year ago, and she's still going through it all the time. And it's when you look at the further back she steps from it, she can see what the issues were. And she's coming around to the idea of finally understanding that the person is just not a person who's ready to receive love. It pisses her off because the other person has already moved on to other relationships. S, plural. All those relationships have failed. Why? Because there's a common variable in all of them. He's taking his same trauma and his same hurt and his same everything into all of those new situations and getting the exact same result. And then here she is trying to sort things out and figure things out. And that's because she realizes a bit now, and hopefully more soon, that she came across a person who just simply wasn't ready to receive it. And I wonder how many of you are that person also, that if you were to get it, you just wouldn't be ready to receive it. It's like if I were to give you $1 million. Sounds great. Everybody wants $1 million. What would you do if I gave it to you? Would you be a better person? Would you be a worse person? Would the money be gone like in 6 weeks? And would you have and again, not just have wasted it, but now actually come out worse for it? What would you feel like in 5 years if you looked back and said, "You know what? I had that $1 million right in my hands. God, I should have done something useful with it. My goodness, I had that love in my hands. I should have done something useful with it." You got to be able to receive it as well as be able to explain it. And that's the same thing about truth. You need to talk to an audience that's able to receive it. You can put out there as much as you want, but some people don't want to receive it, and some people will be given hemlock to drink because they shared it. More on that in the third quarter. How do you like your cheeseburger?
Cheese.
You like it with onions? Like it with pickles? So now I know. How long does it take if another person, after 6 months, a year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, wait, what do you want? How do you take your cheeseburger again? And they still don't have it? There might be something there. Unless you're the person who changes, constantly. Unless you're always looking for variety. In other words, that person starts to learn your routines. That's a person who might be ready to receive. I'm sorry, that's a person who's actively giving. Now here's the thing, do you appreciate it if they do that? Do you appreciate someone opening the door for you? I don't need anybody to open the door for me. It's not about need, man. It's an expression of appreciation. It's an expression of consideration. Well, yeah, okay, is that a person who appreciates it? That's a person who's probably giving, and do you appreciate the fact that they do it? And that means you're someone who's willing to receive. A hard truth about life is that you're going to end up with somebody who confirms what it is that you think about yourself. If you think very highly of yourself, you won't be with someone who treats you badly. Not because you're going to swing your head around and say that you know your worth, but because you're going to be uncomfortable in that situation. You may not even be able to articulate it, which is one of those things that's important here. Why is it that there's an incongruency there? I don't know, I just don't feel right with it. I don't know, I don't know. It doesn't feel like a good fit. That's because they're treating you differently from how you feel about yourself. Similarly, if you feel very badly about yourself and this other person treats you very, very well, you'll find a way to ruin that because it's not confirming what you think about yourself. If you think lowly about yourself and someone treats you badly, you'll probably stay with that person because they're confirming what it is that you think about yourself. They're confirming your particular worldview. And so if you're with somebody and they treat you badly and you've been with them for a while, it's worth asking yourself, what is it about me that is okay with this? What is it about me that attracts that kind of thing and falls comfortably into it? And what you're going to find overwhelmingly is that you're probably lacking self-esteem. You probably are lacking some level of value in yourself. As much as you might say, no, I think I'm wonderful, I think I'm great. Now that's usually an indication, by the way, that a person doesn't, when they can talk in that kind of hyperbole. But when you look at yourself and you say, no, I guess that's right, I do lack self-esteem. That's why I do that. Yeah, I suppose so. You know, and if you think very highly of yourself and someone treats you very well, you'll probably be with that person because it's Tuesday. It's a comfortable place for you to be, and everything in between. So how do you know? Unfortunately, 2 ways. One, actual analysis. A lot of times, like when someone comes along, we're just so happy that someone comes along that we just kind of we just try and make it work. Can't do that. Secondly, trial and error. You find out, you try it, things just go catastrophically wrong, and you look back on it, in the case of this former student of mine, a year later, and you go, all right, I guess I can see why things went tragically wrong. And then you can use that experience, hopefully, to analyze into the future.
What was the first one you said?
Analysis.
Can you further on that one? What do you mean by analytical?
Like I was just saying, somebody opens up a door for you.
Oh.
Are you the kind of person who appreciates that? Or are you a person who finds fault with it?
But you said something about like, oh, someone comes around and is nice, that won't work out. What was that sentence that you said?
One more time?
You said something about like, when you see someone and they come around and you're happy, like that won't work out. Can you repeat that sentence again? What did you say? Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I don't remember what you just said at the beginning of that sentence. I can try. I probably said something to the effect of, when someone does nice things for you, are you appreciative of it? And is that in other words, maybe can you open your own door? Well, yeah, of course, you've got 2 hands. But someone does something for you, are they doing it because they think that you're weak and you need someone to open the door for you? No, they're doing it out of kindness and consideration. Are you able to take it as that? Because if you're the kind of person who does those things out of kindness and consideration, and the other person always takes it negatively, it's not going to work. Because the ways that you express kindness are not the way that they receive kindness. You have heard of love languages before? Yeah, maybe the way that you express love is not the way that the other person receives it. There's just it isn't that you guys are bad people or hate each other. It's just that sometimes the tune just doesn't fit the chords, man. Yeah. If you're walking through an emotional desert where you feel alone and lonely all the time, and someone comes along in a relationship, and that relationship is essentially a bottle of piss, you'll probably accept it. Unfortunately, you have to live with the rest of your life, knowing that you drank a bottle of piss, that you were in this relationship. But maybe something nothing ventured, maybe nothing lost, nothing gained. I don't know another way to explain that, but I think you all get the idea. If you've eaten nothing, how many of you guys would eat bugs right now if I brought in a big bucket of bugs? No, just right now, this morning. Hey guys, no, just right now. Are you hungry enough? Okay. Now, if we lock you in this room and you don't eat for 30 days, and I bring in a bucket of bugs, you'd probably be like, give me those bugs. Yeah. Relationships can be like that with people, It isn't that the right person came along, it's just that someone came along. And some people are just They're not, they feel so damn lonely that they'll just accept whatever it is that comes along, or they're so afraid of being lonely. And by the way, this isn't a way of saying you shouldn't do that. I mean, what the hell do I know about what you need in your life? The question for you is that what you would want? I don't know. Is it better to is it better to drink a bottle of piss, or to dehydrate to death? I can tell you this: you're not going to dehydrate to death in that case of life and love. You're not going to die. It might feel like it, and it might seem like you're dying from loneliness. You're probably not going to. You're probably not going to. It's kind of like taking a job. You take a job you don't like. No, every hour you work at the job you don't want to have, that's one extra hour you could spend looking for the job you do want to have. And if you actually do it that way, but you probably shouldn't go out looking for relationships. The best ones just kind of pop up. Just show up. Just show up in your room one day. However that happens. And so, loneliness does not come from just having nobody around. It's not just from being alone. Loneliness comes from not being able to communicate, and also not being able to hold certain views which others find inadmissible. I won't go into those right now, but there are all kinds of views that maybe you hold that you just can't tell people about for whatever reason. I'm not supposed to feel that. I'm not supposed to think that. We all have those things. We've talked before about the persona and the shadow. You've got this part of yourself that you show the world, that's your persona. You've got this other part of yourself, the shadow, that's all the stuff that you don't share about yourself. And those two things kind of coexist. And a lot of our anxieties, a lot of our depressions, a lot of our mental health problems in life is this battle between the persona and the shadow. This is the guy who came up with that idea, Carl Jung. And so his answer to that was you individuate. In other words, you combine the shadow and the persona. You make the unknown known. You don't necessarily tell everybody, oh yeah, I had these intrusive thoughts where I just want to walk in here and detonate a bomb. You don't necessarily tell people that. But if somebody asks you, do you ever have really horrible, intrusive, ugly thoughts? Yeah. In other words, you accept that part about yourself. Not because you want to continue having those thoughts. Not because you're celebrating being that person. But because until you make the unconscious conscious, you're going to do what you've always done, and you're just going to call it fate. Unless you take those intrusive thoughts, unless you take those things in your shadows, and then you acknowledge that they exist, yeah, that is part of me. If I get too angry, I punch a wall. Yeah, if I get too angry, I drive like a maniac and endanger other people's lives. So now, once you've acknowledged that about yourself, now you can find ways to combat it. Now you can stop doing those things because you've accepted it. This is part of who I am, and not a part of me that I want to be. So now I can do something about it. It's only when you say, I would never, and you clutch your pearls, that's when you know you're probably going to do it if you're not already doing it. Punch a wall, dude, that's not even I would never. Maybe you just haven't been pushed that far yet. Or maybe you're that person who's telling me you haven't. If I went to your house, I'd find plaster all over your walls. Maybe. Just be careful when you say, I would never. Because you're probably going to be tested in exactly that area. And it's easy to say, I would never, when you've never had the opportunity to. It's easy to say, from earlier, if I had $1 million, I'd be a better person. I wonder if we would be, bless you, if you had $1 million. Or I wonder if the road to earning $1 million is the struggle and the hardship. Bless you. I wonder if earning $1 million, the road to that, is the thing that makes you a better person. I wonder if the work that you do on yourself, when you're by yourself, is the thing that makes you a better partner when you do have one. If you're always going from partner to partner, you never have the chance to improve, become better. Unless you're fortunate enough to come across that person in your life who makes you a better person, who makes you want to be a better person. And I'm not saying they force you to, I'm saying you sit there and go, wow, I need to step this up, be a better person. Maybe they're a good model for you, or maybe because you just don't want to lose them. But it's internal motivation. That's if you're lucky. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques?